The Silent Guardian. The HSS Nightingale hung motionless against the backdrop of stars, its sleek hull almost invisible in the darkness of space. To the casual observer, the ship might have appeared unremarkable, another human vessel patrolling the outer colonies, but mounted along its spine was something that defied conventional understanding. The resonance array, a weapon system that looked more like an artist's interpretation of a cosmic harp than military hardware. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display. The alien fleet had appeared without warning at the edge of the Arcturus colony system. 15 warships of unknown design, their intentions clear from their aggressive formation. "Status report on the array," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tension crackling through the bridge. Lieutenant Marcus Walsh, the ship's chief engineer, looked up from his console. His hands moved across the holographic interface with practiced precision. "The resonance array is at 98% capacity, Captain. But we've never tested it against actual hostile forces. The simulations can only tell us so much." "Let's hope we won't have to test it today," Chen replied, though she knew better. The alien fleet was advancing steadily toward Arcturus colony, home to 3 million civilians. The Nightingale was the only military vessel within range. Dr. Elena Santos, the array's lead designer, stepped onto the bridge. Her presence wasn't strictly necessary according to military protocol, but Chen had insisted she stay aboard for the array's maiden deployment. "Captain, I've been analyzing their shield configurations. The array should be able to penetrate them. But," she hesitated, "the effects might be more dramatic than we anticipated." Chen nodded grimly. The resonance array was the product of a breakthrough in quantum harmonics, technology that even most humans didn't fully understand. It generated fields that could manipulate the very fabric of space-time, turning an enemy's shields and weapons against themselves. "Multiple energy signatures detected," announced Lieutenant Commander Rajpatel from Tactical. "They're charging weapons." The alien fleet had noticed them. The leading vessels adjusted their course, breaking away from their trajectory toward the colony to focus on the lone human ship. "Open a channel," Chen ordered. "All frequencies." The communications officer complied, but only static answered their hail. The aliens either couldn't understand their transmissions or chose not to respond. "Their weapons are hot," Patel reported, reading targeting locks from multiple vessels. Chen straightened in her command chair. "Dr. Santos, is the array ready for defensive deployment?" "Yes, but Captain." Santos gripped the railing beside her station. "The calculations suggest we should start at no more than 30% power. Anything higher might have cascading effects we can't predict." The first alien shot came without warning, a brilliant beam of energy that would have torn through conventional shields. But as it approached the Nightingale, something extraordinary happened. The resonance array hummed to life, its crystalline structures beginning to glow with an inner light. The enemy beam seemed to hesitate, like water encountering an invisible barrier. Then it curved, splitting into countless smaller streams that danced around the Nightingale's hull before dissipating harmlessly into space. "Array functioning within expected parameters," Walsh announced, though there was awe in his voice. "Power draw minimal." The alien ships paused their advance. Chen could almost imagine their confusion as they tried to understand what they had just witnessed. But she knew the reprieve would be brief. "They're adjusting their weapon frequencies," Patel warned. Multiple ships preparing to fire. Chen leaned forward. "Dr. Santos, what happens if we push the array to 40%? Santos ran quick calculations on her pad. "The field would extend further, but the harmonics become less predictable. We might see things that challenge our understanding of physics." "Better than seeing our colony destroyed," Chen replied. "Mr. Walsh, increase array power to 40%. Tactical, prepare for defensive maneuvers. Let's show them why humanity's survival has never depended on brute force alone." The alien fleet opened fire in unison, a devastating barrage that would have annihilated any normal vessel. But as the energy weapons approached the Nightingale, the resonance array's field expanded. The crystalline structures along the ship's spine began to pulse with colors that seemed to exist somewhere between normal space and something else entirely. The incoming fire didn't just deflect, it transformed. Beams of destructive energy twisted into complex geometric patterns, forming momentary mandalas of light before collapsing back into quantum foam. The space around the Nightingale rippled like the surface of a pond, distorting the very stars behind it. "Array is holding steady," Walsh reported, his voice tight with concentration. "But we're seeing some unusual readings from the quantum field sensors." Dr. Santos was frantically analyzing the data streaming across her screen. This is beyond our simulations. The array isn't just deflecting their attacks, it's rewriting the underlying quantum states. We're not just defending ourselves, we're teaching physics itself new tricks." The alien fleet had ceased fire, their ships hanging motionless in space. Whether from confusion or calculation, they seemed to be reassessing their approach to this unexpected obstacle. Captain Chen allowed herself a small smile. The resonance array was proving to be more than just a weapon. It was a demonstration of humanity's greatest strength, the ability to turn scientific understanding into something that bordered on the miraculous. "Send another hail," she ordered. "Let's see if they're ready to talk now." Echoes of innovation. Aboard the alien flagship Eternal Dominion, Supreme Commander Vexthor watched the sensor readings with growing unease. His crystalline eyes reflected the cascade of data streaming across the holographic displays, each new piece of information more disturbing than the last. "Impossible," he muttered, his scaled fingers tracing the energy patterns left in the wake of the human ship's defense. "Run the analysis again." His science officer, Karen, didn't need to be told twice. "Commander, we've run it 12 times. The results remain consistent. The human vessel isn't just deflecting our weapons, it's fundamentally altering the quantum structure of space around it." The bridge of the Eternal Dominion fell silent. The Drachnid Empire had conquered 17 star systems through superior firepower and overwhelming force. The crystalline structures blazed with impossible colors, and the space around the ship seemed to fold in on itself. The incoming weapons fire didn't just deflect or dissipate, it transformed. Beams of pure destruction became intricate patterns of light and energy, weaving together in a dance that defied comprehension. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, alarms blared as sensors overloaded. "Commander," Karen shouted, "the human ship, it's not just defending itself. The quantum distortions are affecting our own weapon systems. The harmonics are bleeding back through our targeting arrays." Vexthor watched in horror as the carefully coordinated attack dissolved into chaos. Several of his ships reported weapon malfunctions as the quantum feedback cascaded through their systems. The humans hadn't just created a shield, they'd turned the very fabric of space into a mirror, reflecting the Drachnid's own power back at them in ways they couldn't predict or control. "All ships, cease fire," he commanded, but it was too late. The quantum cascade had taken on a life of its own. Ships throughout his fleet reported systems failing as the resonance array's influence spread, creating a web of quantum distortions that threatened to tear apart the carefully constructed hierarchy of Drachnid military technology. On the Nightingale's bridge, Santos stared at her readings in wonder. "Captain, the array, it's not just responding to their attacks anymore. It's creating a sustained field of quantum manipulation. The space between us and their fleet has become a laboratory for new physics." "Can we control it?" Chen asked, watching as patterns of light and energy danced between the ships. "Control might be the wrong word," Santos replied. "We can guide it, influence it, but what we're seeing here, this is evolution. The array is showing us possibilities we never imagined during development." Walsh's voice cut through the wonder. "Power consumption is increasing. Whatever the array is doing, it's drawing more energy than our models predicted. We need to make a decision soon, Captain." Chen studied the tactical display, watching as the alien fleet struggled to maintain formation amid the quantum chaos their own weapons had helped create. The resonance array had proven itself more than a defensive weapon. It was a demonstration of humanity's ability to transform understanding into innovation, to take the impossible and make it not just possible, but beautiful. "Send another hail," she ordered. "Let's see if they're ready to discuss the true meaning of technological superiority." Breaking point. Supreme Commander Vex Thor's pride had finally overcome his caution. The human vessel's continued defiance was an insult to everything the Drachnid Empire represented. His scaled hands clenched into fists as he issued the order that would change everything. "Launch the World Breakers." His bridge crew stiffened. The World Breakers were planet-killing weapons, forbidden by every civilized species in known space. Even the Drachnids used them only as a last resort. Karin, his science officer, dared to speak up. "Commander, the quantum distortions from their defensive system are still growing. Adding World Breaker energy to the mix could have catastrophic consequences." "Then we'll all face those consequences together," Vex Thor snarled. "No single human ship makes a mockery of the Empire's might and survives." Aboard the Nightingale, alarms screamed to life. Lieutenant Commander Patel's voice was tight with urgency. "Captain, detecting massive power buildups in the alien fleet. Energy signatures match nothing in our database, but they're orders of magnitude stronger than their previous weapons." Dr. Santos rushed to her console, her dark eyes widening as she analyzed the readings. "These energy levels, they could crack a planet's crust. Captain, if those weapons interact with the array's quantum field, we need to shut it down." Walsh interrupted from engineering. "The array wasn't designed to handle this kind of power. We're already pushing its limits at 50%. Captain Chen stood from her command chair, her decision already made. "If we shut down the array, we lose our only defense. And more importantly, we lose our shield over the colony." She turned to Santos. "Doctor, what happens if we increase power instead?" Santos' fingers flew across her console. "The models break down past 60%. We'd be entering completely uncharted territory. The quantum cascades could collapse into a singularity, or, Chen pressed, or we might see the birth of something entirely new. The array's been learning, evolving. Each interaction with their weapons has expanded its capabilities beyond our original designs." The tactical display showed 4 massive weapons platforms deploying from the Drachnid fleet. Energy began to coalesce around them, distorting the very light of nearby stars. "World Breakers at 70% charge," Paddle reported. "Impact in 3 minutes." Chen made her way to Santos' station. "Doctor, you said the array is learning." "Learning what, exactly?" Santos gestured at the complex patterns flowing across her screen. "It's learning to speak the language of space-time itself. Each defensive action creates new quantum relationships, new ways of manipulating reality. It's not just reflecting their attacks anymore. It's transforming them into something else entirely. And if we gave it more power, then we let it finish the conversation it's trying to have with the universe." Chen returned to her chair. "Mr. Walsh, divert all non-essential power to the array. Dr. Santos, take us to 70%. "Captain," Walsh protested, "the structural integrity field is less important than saving 3 million civilians. Do it." The resonance array blazed to life with renewed intensity. The crystalline structures along the Nightingale's spine began to sing. There was no other word for it. The sound resonated through the ship's hull, a harmony of frequencies that shouldn't have been possible in the vacuum of space. "World Breakers at 90%, Patil announced. 2 minutes to impact." Santos's voice was filled with wonder as she monitored the array's output. "The quantum field is stabilizing. But it's not just defending anymore. The array is reaching out, trying to establish coherence with the space around us." On the tactical display, the space between the Nightingale and the Drachnid fleet began to shimmer. Light bent in impossible ways, creating patterns that seemed to repeat infinitely inward and outward simultaneously. "World Breakers at full power," Paddle reported. 1 minute to impact. Chen leaned forward in her chair. Dr. Santos, what happens at maximum power? Santos looked up from her console, her expression a mixture of fear and fascination. We let the array finish its work. We let it show us what it's been trying to create. The structural integrity field won't hold at those levels, Walsh warned. It doesn't need to, Santos replied. Not anymore. She looked at Chen. Captain, the array isn't just a weapon or a shield. It's become a translator, teaching us how to speak directly to the fundamental forces of reality. The world breakers fired. 4 beams of pure annihilation, each capable of shattering a planet's core, converged on the Nightingale's position. Array to maximum power, Chen ordered. Santos slammed the controls forward. The crystalline structures erupted with light that existed somewhere beyond the visible spectrum. The song of the array reached a crescendo that vibrated through the quantum fabric of space itself. As the world breaker beams approached, something extraordinary happened. The space around the Nightingale didn't just bend. It blossomed. The quantum patterns that had been building throughout the battle suddenly snapped into focus, creating a geometry that existed in more dimensions than the human mind could comprehend. The world breaker beams entered this transformed space and changed. Their destructive energy was not reflected or absorbed, but reconstructed. The very forces that held reality together reached out through the array's influence and rewrote the laws of physics on a local level. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, Vexthor watched in horror as his ultimate weapons were transformed into something beautiful and terrible. The energy of the world breakers flowered into a cascade of light and possibility, forming structures in space-time that his sensors couldn't begin to categorize. The human ship, Corinne whispered, it's not just surviving our weapons. It's using them to build something. The resonance array had finally found its voice, and it was teaching the universe how to sing. The dance of light. Time seemed to stop in the space between the Nightingale and the Drachnid fleet. The transformed energy of the world breakers hung suspended in a lattice of light that defied description, each point of intersection a window into possibilities that had never existed before this moment. Captain Chen found herself standing, drawn forward by the spectacle displayed on the main view screen. Dr. Santos, she whispered, what are we looking at? Santos' hands moved across her console with trembling precision. The array, it's not just manipulating quantum states anymore. It's creating them. Brand new configurations of space, time, and energy that have never existed before in our universe. The crystalline structures along the Nightingale's spine pulsed with a rhythm that seemed to match the beating of human hearts. Each pulse sent ripples through the transformed space, adding new layers of complexity to the cosmic dance unfolding before them. Power levels are stabilizing, Walsh reported, his voice filled with disbelief. The array is drawing energy directly from the quantum field it's created. It's becoming self-sustaining. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Supreme Commander Vexthor watched his empire's most powerful weapons become part of something he couldn't begin to comprehend. The sensors were overwhelmed, showing readings that contradicted everything he thought he knew about physics. Corinne, he demanded, explain this. The science officer's crystalline eyes reflected the impossible patterns flooding their screens. Commander, the human device. It's not just defending against our attacks. It's using them as raw material to construct new forms of matter and energy. It's like watching the birth of a new set of physical laws. Back aboard the Nightingale, Santos' eyes widened as new data streamed across her display. Captain, the array is trying to communicate with us. These patterns, they're not random. They're a language written in the grammar of quantum mechanics. Can you translate it? Chen asked, never taking her eyes off the swirling display of light and energy. I'm trying, but it's like trying to describe color to someone who's never seen it. The array isn't just showing us new physics, it's showing us new ways of thinking about physics. Lieutenant Commander Patel spoke up from Tactical. The alien fleet is holding position, but their weapons are powering down. I think they're as stunned as we are. Chen nodded slowly. Open a channel. Let's see if they're ready to understand what they've helped us create." Before she could say more, the space between the two fleets shifted again. The lattice of transformed energy began to move with purpose, forming shapes and patterns that spoke directly to something deep in the human consciousness. It was beautiful in a way that transcended ordinary vision, a symphony of light and possibility that made everyone who witnessed it understand something profound about the nature of reality itself. "It's a bridge," Santos breathed, her fingers dancing across her console as she tried to keep up with the flood of data. The array isn't just transforming their weapons, it's building a bridge between our understanding of physics and what's actually possible. Walsh's engineering console erupted with new readings. The quantum field is stabilizing, but it's not just around us anymore. The effect is spreading, creating a network of something through space itself. On the Eternal Dominion, Karen's instruments detected the same phenomenon. "Commander, the human vessel's influence is expanding. These quantum structures, they're creating pathways through subspace, connecting points in ways our drives never could." Vexthor stood silent, watching as his mighty fleet was rendered obsolete not by superior firepower, but by humanity's ability to transform understanding into innovation. The World Breakers, his empire's ultimate expression of destructive power, had become building blocks in something far greater. They didn't just defend against us, he realized aloud. They took our greatest weapons and turned them into art. The resonance array's song reached a new crescendo, and the transformed space bloomed with possibilities. The lattice of light expanded, creating corridors of pure potential that connected the spaces between stars. What had begun as a defensive system had evolved into something that could reshape humanity's understanding of space travel itself. Captain Chen faced the main view screen, where the Drachnid fleet hung motionless against the backdrop of their own transformed weapons. "Send them a message," she ordered. "Tell them that humanity stands ready to share what we've learned here. The array hasn't just changed the rules of warfare. It's shown us that there are better ways to reach between the stars." Santos looked up from her console, her eyes shining. "Captain, the array's calculations, they suggest this is just the beginning. The quantum networks it's creating, they could revolutionize everything from communication to transportation. We haven't just survived their attack. We've discovered a new chapter in human technological evolution." The bridge crew watched in awe as the dance of light continued, each pattern a promise of discoveries yet to come. The resonance array had done more than prove humanity's ingenuity. It had opened a door to a future where the barriers between possible and impossible grew ever thinner. In the space between two fleets, where weapons of planetary destruction had been transformed into bridges between stars, humanity's greatest strength was on display. Not the power to destroy, but the wisdom to transform destruction into creation, conflict into cooperation, and limits into possibilities. Beyond the stars. 1 month after the confrontation at Arcturus Colony, the HSS Nightingale hung in high orbit above Earth, its crystalline resonance array still pulsing with that otherworldly light that had changed the course of human history. The ship's observation deck had been converted into an impromptu conference room, where representatives from both humanity and the Drachnid Empire gathered to discuss the implications of what they now called the Arcturus event. Captain Chen stood at the viewport, watching the transformed space around her ship ripple with quantum possibilities. Beside her, Supreme Commander Vexthor's scaled form seemed less imposing than it had during their first encounter. His crystalline eyes reflected the dance of light outside, a constant reminder of how much had changed. "Your scientists were right," Vexthor admitted, his translator rendering his words with a hint of reverence. "The array didn't just defend against our weapons, it showed us a new way to understand the universe itself." Dr. Santos approached, carrying a holographic display of the latest data. The quantum networks created by the array had continued to grow, forming stable pathways between star systems that defied traditional physics. "The transformation is still ongoing," she explained. "Each new connection creates possibilities we hadn't even considered during the array's development." The conference room behind them, buzzed with activity as human and Drachnid scientists collaborated, their former enmity forgotten in the face of discovery. Lieutenant Walsh stood at a central console, explaining the array's power distribution systems to a group of fascinated Drachnid engineers. "The quantum bridges are self-sustaining now," Walsh reported. "They're drawing energy directly from the fabric of space itself. The more we use them, the stronger and more stable they become." Chen turned to face the assembled representatives. "1 month ago, we stood on the brink of destruction. Now we stand at the threshold of a new age of exploration and understanding." Vexthor nodded slowly. The Drachnid Empire was built on the belief that technological superiority meant the power to destroy. You humans showed us that true superiority lies in the power to transform. The main display activated, showing a map of known space crisscrossed with the glowing pathways of quantum bridges. Each point of intersection represented a new possibility for travel, communication, and cooperation between civilizations that had once seen each other only as threats. "The array continues to evolve," Santos explained to the gathered audience. "What began as a defensive system has become a tool for reshaping our understanding of space and time. The quantum networks it creates don't just connect different points in space, they connect different ways of thinking about what's possible." Lieutenant Commander Patul, who had been analyzing the strategic implications of the new technology, stepped forward. "The quantum bridges have already reduced interstellar travel time by a factor of 10. Traditional defensive systems are becoming obsolete as we understand more about how to manipulate space-time itself. And that's exactly why we're here," Chen added. "The array hasn't just changed how we travel between stars. It's changed how we think about our place among them." A Drachnid scientist named Relix, who had been studying the array's effects on subspace, raised her scaled hand. "Our preliminary studies suggest that the quantum networks could be adapted for purposes we haven't even imagined yet. The array isn't just a technological breakthrough. It's a key to understanding the fundamental nature of reality itself." The implications were staggering. What had begun as a desperate defense of a single colony had evolved into something that could reshape civilization itself. The array had shown that the greatest weapons were not those that destroyed, but those that could transform destruction into creation. "We propose," Vexthor announced, "a joint initiative between our peoples. The Drachnid Empire will share all of our technological knowledge, and in return, we ask to learn from humanity's unique perspective." Chen smiled. "Perspective is humanity's greatest strength. We don't just see what is, we see what could be." Outside the viewport, the quantum bridges pulsed with new energy, as if responding to the growing cooperation between former enemies. The array's song had become a symphony of possibility, each note a reminder that the universe held more wonders than any single species could imagine alone. Dr. Santos' console chimed with new data. "The quantum networks are adapting again," she announced. "They're not just connecting space anymore. They're creating ways for different forms of matter and energy to interact. We're seeing the emergence of entirely new physics." "New physics," Walsh mused, "born from the marriage of human innovation and Drachnid power. Who would have thought our greatest discovery would come from a moment of conflict?" The conference room fell silent as everyone contemplated the view outside. The Earth below them seemed somehow both smaller and more significant, a blue jewel suspended in a web of quantum possibilities that humanity had helped create. "This is just the beginning," Chen said finally. "The array has shown us that the barriers between possible and impossible are more flexible than we ever imagined. Together, we can explore not just new stars, but new ways of understanding the universe itself." Vexthor extended his scaled hand to Chen, a gesture he had learned was significant to humans. "To the future," he said, "and to the power of transformation." As human and alien leaders sealed their new alliance, the resonance array continued its eternal dance, weaving together the fabric of space, time, and possibility. It stood as a testament to humanity's greatest gift, the ability to look into the face of destruction and see instead the seeds of creation. The stars above seemed brighter somehow, as if they too were celebrating this new chapter in the story of intelligent life. The universe, vast and mysterious as ever, held its breath as two species who had met in conflict prepared to explore its wonders together. Guided by the light of human innovation and the endless dance of quantum possibilities.